can these times be support for your clarity process? Because we know that life always provides us with support on this path to clarity. So I wrote a little something, and I would like to share that with you. So one of the things that is very, very helpful, a way how the clarity process can be a support for you in these times where many things are turned upside down, maybe not in the same way for everybody, but most of us experience a very different schedule in our life, a very different way of living than we usually have. And this is at the same time something that can be, you can support with clarity, because one of the things that is so important in our clarity work, and maybe it's the most important thing, is to separate mind from moment. And this is the core of this process that we walk, and that Drew has given us. And when I say separate mind from moment, of course, I do not mean throwing away the one or throwing away the other. With separate, I mean untangle. Untangle both that are right here, right now. Giving some awareness to the experience that you have right now. What of this experience, and you can do this for yourself right now, is coming from the mind, from the screen, you could say, from virtual reality. And what from my experience right now is from reality. And we know that for that answer, we have to go to our senses and maybe basically also to our skin. And already raising this simple question, is what I experience coming from the mind or from the moment? And what of my experience is coming from the mind and what is coming from the moment? What is reality? What is fantasy? That already brings awareness into the now. And I know, and I also know it because you have written that to me, that bringing awareness in the now is such a big help to deal with times like these, where stress is around the corner each and every moment. And you will also now see that when you ask this question right now, that the moment is a source of peace, a source of calm, a source of life, a source of gratitude, of satisfaction, and of connection. And I also feel that when we untangle them, and we can allow ourselves to experience both, we bring back an essential balance in our lives. And this is a responsibility that we have for ourselves. And we have the responsibility to have a kind of balance in our lives, or maybe it's better to say the other way around, to stop things getting too much out of balance. Some out of balance can be fun, even sometimes, but we have to be careful that it doesn't get too far. Life cannot thrive when there is too much unbalance. And it's so easy for us to see that in regard to the balance between activity and rest, and the balance between work and play, being indoors and outdoors, although that is something now that we really have to consciously make decisions about. The balance between being alone and connecting with others, nature, culture, etc. But it's sometimes very, very hard to see that it is especially important for us to have balance between awareness for mind and moment, because this worrying machine is pulling our awareness into this mind world, and we have to consciously do something, use our tools to bring back some balance in our lives. And yeah, this is where the clarity process and the tools that you have come in, and can give you unbelievably much in these times. We also have experienced this, of course, already many, many times, that when mind and moment both have their place, that also these other things, the balance between activity and rest, work and play, and all these things somehow fall into place, when this balance between mind and moment in our lives is more present. So to allow the clarity process to be a support for us, we have to consciously counteract this habit of having awareness for our mind lives only. Because if we do not consciously do this, not give this consciously space during the day, not only when we do a meditation, but during the day, then what is happening in our minds, this virtual reality, becomes our lives. And because the mind is a survival machine, basically running on these outdated programs, it will non-stop have the tendency to stress you out. Also, prompt you to then again run away from this stress, and that makes it even more complicated, especially, of course, now in these times, because we are deprived, you could say, of what we would call our normal life, the normal rhythm of our life, of our work life, of our family life, sharing time with friends and family and colleagues, etc. And of course, we're also bombarded through our screens and papers with horror stories of sickness and death. Of course, sickness and death are a part of life. And in that sense, we should make space for it. But also there is a balance. So I'm not suggesting to cut yourself off from these stories, so to say. It's wonderful to let them in, to be compassionate, to open your heart, but also there, take care for a certain kind of balance. 2 times a day is more than enough, maybe even only 1 time a day. Okay, so I think, that is the most precious gift of the clarity process, this ability to use the tools to untangle this mess of mind and moment that we live in when we're not conscious, and to gently untangle them. So I also took some time to think of a few things. I think there are many more, but I just took out a few things where I think that these times can be support for our awakening, or to keep it simple, for our personal clarity process. First of all, these times are a big help because they bring us out of our habitual patterns. Everything that we do not like about it is actually the big help. It brings us out of our habitual way of living our lives, thus bringing us out of our automatics. And that's really, really interesting. And it's only a very small shift from it being a nuisance, it being irritating, to it being interesting. That is a small, but very, very, very powerful shift. Our plans were to be in Tuscany now, together. Our plans actually were to get ourselves out of the habitual life that we had organized for ourselves. This is one of the reasons why a workshop works so well because it takes you out of your habitual life, and taking yourself out of habit has a potential, when you use it, to open yourself to the now. So yeah, this small shift from it being irritating or a nuisance to it being actually interesting can be very, 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 very powerful. I experienced myself. I think we did Tuesday. We did the testing session with a couple of you just for the technical side, and I was preparing for that, and I discovered that my camera, the way the camera that Irene gave me to use, that my face was just very, very dark, because where I usually have my computer, that is with my back to the window, and then the sun comes in and you can see nothing. So I had to change that. But the way I have organized my life is that I have a big, big meditation room in my house, but a very, very small office room, the smallest part of the whole house, where I have all my little things to do the office thing. So I was really, with my husband, what do I have to do? I have to rearrange everything. I hate it. And he had a little table, and he said, well, you can put a table there, and then we shift your computer over there. And I said, no, I don't want it. I want to be in Italy. I want to give this workshop. I don't want to sit in front of a computer. No, I hate it. I hate it. But okay, we did it. We did the test session. That was pretty okay. But then this table was sitting, extra table was there in this already small working space. And the next day I didn't want to put the table out, because then I have to put everything back in again today. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to see how I manage. And it was a disaster. I couldn't manage at all. I couldn't move at a very small place for my body. And all of a sudden I remember that in Savita, where I give the workshop, I have even a much smaller place when I prepare all the workshops and everything, and I don't care at all. And that was the moment when my mind shifted from it being a nuisance to actually being interested. What was happening? What was my mind doing? Why in another situation I'm perfectly happy with a small place and with simplicity, and here at my home, simply because I'm taken away from my habits, I'm making a fuss of it. And this table that I have here now, it's a table made by an artist. It's not meant as an office. It's meant to look at. So my knees are bumping into fishes that are attached under this table and stuff. But because of the interest, it all of a sudden became a portal to the now. And this is how I feel that these times where all our habitual patterns are tossed over, and you don't even know if someone on the television tomorrow will say, well, now you cannot do this, or now you have to do it like that. Yeah? Which of course is for the old patterns from childhood that want support and not say you cannot do this and you cannot do that, is of course firing up defensive programs. For my clarity, it can be really interesting. So this was what I wanted to share with you, to make this little shift, to be interested. So that's the one thing. And the other thing that I feel that how it can support you is that what this time show is rather extraordinary. It shows you the power of the survival fear, of the survival drive, because I think no one would have ever imagined it possible for our human society to so quickly adjust the way they are building their society together. Yeah? It only needs a small virus and some survival fear, and look what is happening. It is amazing. Yeah? So we can learn from watching this, whether you believe that it's really a potential threat to your survival or to others. That's actually not so important, because as long as the system somehow takes it as real, yeah, it reacts on it. This is also something that we can take into observing our own system, yeah, because I have seen the Netherlands, my own neighborhood, my own hometown here, Leiden, within 2 weeks, change in a totally different society, unrecognizable. I think nobody would have ever thought that we are actually so flexible and so creative. And willing to make sacrifices. And I think it is very worthwhile to watch this with a lot of interest, because it helps you to understand much, much better the impact of the decisions that you made as a baby and a young child, and that you made these decisions and that you stick to these decisions and the power that they have, because it was out of survival fear or survival drive. The sacrifices that you were willing to make as a baby or a young child, and the speed with which you implemented these new strategies in your life, and the strengths with which you hold on to them, even if you could not have been sure whether they would meet the severity of the problem. But the subconscious says, better safe than sorry. So for me, watching this all happening, yeah, again, gave me so much more understanding and compassion for what has happened and still is happening in my subconscious mind. And there's also a positive side to it, to see the creativity that is freed up through survival fear, to do things then in a different way, to free up new potential. Here I am sitting in front of the screen. I would really never have believed I would ever do such a thing as this. Yeah, yet it is happening, and I actually like it also now. So yeah, and we also see that when we look in our own systems, we see that through pain, through fear, we have also developed qualities, and we have addressed creativity and strengths in ourselves. We have an unlocked potential in ourselves, also when we were newborn babies. For example, suppose already at a very early stage you had some experiences that made you decide to not trust your mother, yeah, that you really felt this is for my survival. I have to stop trusting the one that I depend on for my survival. But because you had to survive and had to relate to her, although you were sure you could not really trust her, you had to be creative. You had to find other ways to deal with it. So, for example, some people then found that they could be funny, yeah, and then relate to her in a non-dangerous way to make her laugh. Or maybe you found potentials in yourself that you could help yourself and not need her so much, not call upon her so much. Yeah? So on the one hand, that is painful, because it is painful that you had to do that. But on the other hand, it is also wonderful, because it awakened potentials and strengths in you. And for our work, it is important to keep that in mind. And you can see it now in society and also in yourself, how you are dealing with the situation. You can see it in front of your eyes. And yeah, like life is a mirror. Watching it clearly, we can learn a lot about what is happening in our own inner minds, and especially in the deeper subconscious levels. Now, because it is pain and that forced you into those creativities, somehow at a deeper level, the pain is then connected also to, let's say that you learned to make your mother laugh. And you continued with this strategy. So also at school, you are the clown, and maybe later you become an artist or something. Yeah. But although this is something very, very beautiful, at a subconscious level, the pain is resonating also with it. Now, when we do our work, we look for the pain, we work with the pain, we bring it to the surface, we help it to be digested, and we understand that the pain was because of fear of survival. And when we see that we have now an adult body, we can let go of the fear and process the pain, and we can relax those strategies. But we actually can also still use those strategies, but relax only the defensive attitude that somehow is very often still behind it. And I'm personally very, very curious, already looking forward to the processes that are going to happen in our society when these measures are being released. Yeah? And I really invite you to make a study of it, because it shows you things that you will encounter in your own inner processes when you are letting go of old fears. So in one way, there will be the enjoying of the freedom. But in another way, there will also be, can I still trust? Because I've learned that there is a virus somewhere. So I've learned now to not embrace, not shake hands, not be close to strangers. Yeah. So when these measures are being released, this virus will still be among us. How will we deal personally? Yeah. We have, of course, our clarity process. So we have a lot of tools that we can use, but also as a society, how are we going to deal with that? Are we going to, for example, personally, my ability to maybe teach through a computer, and not having specifically have to be with people in one room, would I then be tempted to use that more? Although I know that more depth can come when I am with people in one room. But yeah, you don't have to take the plane, you don't have to organize a house. Yeah, it's much cheaper. It can even be reach more people through the computer and all these kinds of things. Well, I'm curious what will happen with me, and also what will happen in society. Will we be able to really let go of the fear? And I also think that in this way, these times can help us in our clarity process, because it is so visual now on a big scale, what is actually also often happening so much in our inner world when we let go of old defenses. When we let go of old defenses, we again need this clarity. What is from the mind? What is from the moment? We need to again learn to trust our senses. What is now? We need our intelligence to tell us what fears are irrelevant and what fears are relevant for an adult body. And we have to learn again to be with the unknown. for the mind, the unknown for the mind. We need our trust in life, the knowing that comes from the senses and the heart, and not the knowing that comes from the mind. And we need some patience and understanding for the subconscious who thinks better safe than sorry. So, yeah, it will be interesting to watch. Now, it is, of course, much more easy to have changes out of survival fear, because this is a strong drive to have changes than to have changes because of, you could say, there is no fear, nothing to fear. Yeah, this is what we, of course, in our work do a lot. I like to call it also the difference between letting go of habitual patterns because of survival fear, what is happening now, or because of love for life and seeing the reality of our adult being. On the surface, how we are addressed by the politicians and so, it also looks like for a big part we are letting go of our old habitual patterns because of love, because the main message is we not do it for ourselves, we do it for the others in society who are vulnerable. We do it so that those who get really ill can get the care that we are able to provide. And there is some truth in it, but again, I'm watching closely. I'm also watching my own inner self closely. Yeah? Of course, it appeals to me, not do it for myself, do it for others. But I must honestly share with you that when looking in my own system and also looking how I react, for example, when I'm in a supermarket that is up 1.5 meters distance, when I do it, yes, there is this aspect, I do it for the other. I recognize there's also the aspect that I do it for myself, that at some level, yeah, within me, the survival fear is also in play. And how I see it when I watch myself is that this is actually the big driving force for making it possible for my own system to implement these changes so quickly into my life. And in a way, this might sound strange, but this recognition for me is also a help for my clarity. Because the moment I recognize it, I can at that moment see that in the moment that it is happening, it is not real. Yeah. And that makes it then possible to make this out of love part more true. And that then again relaxes the whole system. There's much less stress in the system, and this shift from it being a nuisance to it being interesting then becomes much more available to me. And then there was a third thing that I saw and that I would like to share with you. Something that is very important in our work and that these times show much more clearly than any other time has shown me that clearly. And that is the fact that there is only now. We know this. We do a lot of work in our workshops to get this deeper, this truth that only now is. But it has a tendency to be a bit theoretically. And what we're going through now, and especially the last 2 weeks, where the changes came in very, very unexpectedly for most of us, at least, and very quickly. It reveals this to us, because this uncertainty about the future, yeah, gives stress. But we've worked on this many times. There is no future. The future doesn't exist. Yeah? There is no past. The past doesn't exist. You cannot know anything about the future. It cannot be known. Only the now can be known. And these times can be a gift in that aspect if you are willing to 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 take it in that way. We have created so much comfort, so much certainty in our society about the things that we need for our basic survival needs, that they're simply there in the supermarkets, and that we can have our plans done. Yeah, we used our intelligence and as a society to have so much influence. Yeah, but this is, of course, has never been true. We really have this influence. It's the generosity, in a way, of life that makes this possible to us. And all of a sudden, yeah, we have to change our plans and etc. etc. But it is actually simply revealing something that is true, and to open up to this truth is again a tremendous portal to awakening. Because we are so used to everything being there in the supermarkets, we actually lost our abilities to live with uncertainty, to live with discomfort, and to live with, yeah, I would not say a shortage in basic survival needs, because I've not seen any shortage. Yeah, it's mainly a little limitation in the abundance of what is available to us. The day that at least here in the Netherlands, everything in the newspapers and on the television was screaming, empty shelves in the supermarket, empty shelves. You cannot get any food anymore, no toilet paper, no nothing, everything's gone. Well, I went to the supermarket that afternoon, and yes, there were empty shelves. Yes, things were gone, but there was so much. There was so much. You could eat really months of what was there. Yeah, there were no potatoes, but there were eggplants. There were, I mean, you just have to be a bit more creative. Yeah? It could actually, again, a little shift of awareness make shopping adventurous. Again, what are we going to eat tonight? What will be available? But of course, we have already managed as a society to arrange everything. So now almost everything, at least where I live, is available again. So it was only a short window of opportunity to come to truth, you could say, that there is abundance of everything, even if the newspapers are screaming. So yeah, this is really important. The future cannot be known. And we have a big opportunity now to realize this deeper and find peace with this and see the beauty of this. There is no future. We have no control over our lives. Life is very benevolent. The only thing that we can know is the now, because only now is. And the now is your portal to truth, to yourself, to your awakening, to who and what you really are. So again, we learn to cherish the now, to cherish this precious moment and this precious you that is a fruit of this moment. Now, Giroud told us again and again that trusting life, being open to live like the lilies in the field, you could say, does not mean being stupid. and letting go of your intelligence, letting go of planning, but to be more realistic about it, to use this gift of mind from a place of reality, from a place of love. This is what we wanted for ourselves and each other by subscribing to this 3-week retreat in Italy. And although we are now all in our own homes, this is what we can still commit to. Okay. This is what I planned to share with you this afternoon. So let it resonate a bit. I think Sigrid is also recording it, and so if you like, you could listen to it once more.